Prater and the Ballgame are counting down the days to the start of spring football on March 2nd. The hottest topics on Bronco football.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Countdown to camp on Sports Radio 95.3 FM and 1350 AM. The Ticket.
All right, good to hear that sound, right, Bronco football fan? For spring football, in a little more than a week, we figured, Prater, we have to get a camp countdown series going. Actually, this was JP's baby doll over the weekend. We just said, yeah, we love the idea. We do it pretty much every year, I'd imagine, but here we are another year, and you said last hour, this is a different spring football season for Boise State, and the reason it's so different is there's a lot of new pieces around that building.
34 new players, 9 newcomers coming in from early enrollees and a gray shirt player, a couple of other walk-ons that have joined this team, 8 super seniors, 40. That's 42, roster moves right there alone on a team that has about 110 players. And they won't have 110 players now as they play the walk-on game and juggle some stuff. But they certainly have some priorities. This is going to be one of the most important off seasons around here in a long, long time. Tons of potential, tons of hype, and tons of questions. When those 3 things collide, I cannot wait to see what happens, ballgame.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff, and we'll ask our listeners, too, to text our station, let us know, because we're starting today. We figured, okay, it has to be something with Taylen Green, probably something with Bush Hamdan, who was Taylen Green's 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years. So there's obviously new quirks. Anytime you get a new OC, and the advantages of getting that OC, getting a full spring to make those connections, Prater, I would imagine everybody around would say how valuable that is. So we figured we'd start with what we think Bush Hamdan's priority list for Taylen Green should be during this spring. And you guys can text us what your ideas would be. Prater, let's start with you on this thing. There's a lot of priorities, obviously, Bush would have with Taylen. What stood out to you the most?
Well, for me, it's about, and hopefully they've already been doing this, and I'm assuming they've already been doing this a lot, and just getting on the same page, getting to know each other, becoming bros, becoming buddies. I want to know what makes you click. I want to know what makes you click, and what do you like? What do you don't like? What do you like to eat? What do you like to do? Who do you hate? Who do you love? All kinds of conversations about football. I want Bush Hamdan and Taylen Green to be best friends. I've seen Taylen Green and Ashton Jeanty spending a lot of time together on social media this offseason, and that's really beautiful to see, whether it's NIL stuff here or just pals out goofing around or doing podcasts or whatever. Ashton Jeanty and Taylen Green are attached to the hip, and I need to see that third guy, and that's Bush Hamdan attached to the hip. And he's not going to be out there on social media, but he's going to certainly understand what his rock star quarterback is like, and just these two getting to know each other. Now, once the season starts or once camp starts next Thursday, there's all kinds of things. We identified 3 or 4 things this morning in our production meeting, and we'll continue to talk about them. But, the freedom to do what he wants, accuracy, throwing motion, reading a defense, all those things are very, very important. Taylen Green was a good quarterback last year, but he was a better athlete. I need to flip-flop that. I need him to be a better quarterback, taking advantage of his athleticism.
That's when those guys, if Taylen Green is going to be able to take this thing to Sundays one day, he's going to have to figure out to do what a lot of those guys in his spot with that athleticism level in the NFL have been able to do. And it's probably a lot easier said than done. And I would imagine having that offensive coordinator, that guy who shares the same philosophical ideas on the field and with the scheme. Bush Hamdan is probably going to love certain aspects of his offense that are different than Dirk or Tim Plow's. And he's got to get, the Bible of Bush, right? The Tao of Taylen. These things need to merge and they need to be on the same page. I'm just echoing just what you were saying previously, Prater, because that, I think, comes before anything. Just being on the same page, Not just the same page of the playbook, but the same page of of life. I guess that sounds cheesy, but for this thing to truly hit a home run on with Bush and his offense and Taylen Green being able to run it and really do things, let's be honest here, that we haven't seen a lot of Boise State quarterbacks ever be able to do. If Bush Hamdan can find a way to maximize Taylen Green. Like you said, make him a quarterback, not just an athlete who happens to play quarterback. If he can do that, then Bronco Nation is going to get to see Taylen Green play on Saturdays and play this position a way that no one's really ever played it before, wearing that uniform. Take what Taylen did great last year. The 74-yarder in Corvallis. What was it? The 94, 95, how 91 yarder against Utah State, I believe. I mean, those are just splash plays. Like, if you can get more of those, holy smokes, man, that's what Bush Hamdan is going to have to do. And I just think it's mainly, Bush being able to teach Taylen the way he wants the quarterback position to be played, and Taylen to be receptive to that, and to, another baseball reference, hit it out of the park for him.
One thing I would like for them not to do is overthink this, because just the natural progression, Taylen's going to get better no matter what. And he's the smart enough guy. He's the work ethic guy, and he's going to get better. I don't need Bush to come in here and all of a sudden flood his head with a completely different offense. So hopefully 90% of the offense, 80% of the offense is very similar, very same. The terminology, a couple of words here and there, that's all going to happen just based on, the natural transition. But I don't anticipate too much of an issue in terms of the transition. You talked about the long runs, and those are beautiful, and I hope they never go away. The one thing that I would like to see them lay more of the foundation for is a longer passing game, and he's going to have the tools to do it. He's going to have himself a deep wide receiver room. Static Cobbs has already said that he wants to work on being faster, and he's got a couple of other wide receivers, and McAllister, guys that can get downfield. Taylen Green only completed 2 passes last year over 44 yards.
Yeah, that's not enough.
That's not enough. He had the 52-yarder and another 50-yarder. So even when he was getting the plus 45, it was just barely a 52-yarder against Fresno and a 50-yarder against Utah State. I need to see that probably once every couple of games. I need to see Taylen Green, because I think he can be a good deep threat guy, especially with the tools that he has. That motion that he has, that Dirk kind of tightened up a little bit last year, I'm not so much worried about that anymore. Maybe they'll tighten that up a little bit, but I'm comfortable with the weird quirkiness because it works for him. I just need to see Taylen Green become better deep passer, or maybe it's not even so much saying that he needs to be a better deep passer, just making sure that the deep passing game clicks, because that takes a lot of different elements with the line, the protection, the wide receivers, the separation. Boise State, it's been a while, and I need to see Boise State have a deep passing threat. I miss that an awful lot.
Absolutely. Or I mean, just if it's 3rd and 8 and those come up a lot, and just to have some confidence in your offense that Taylen Green in shotgun with a 4 or 5 wide receiver set, that you're going to be confident that he's going to find the right spot and he's going to put it on the money, and where they're going to pick up and move the chains on a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Last year for me, it felt like 3rd and 8, I'm kind of thinking I want Taylen just to take off on this, man.
Yeah.
If you have any type of crease, kid, just go, man. Just go. I don't worry about it. And this, I'm thinking, as he matures, and if he wants to be a big guy who plays on Sundays, I mean, you need to be able to pick up this through the air at this level, and I hope that Bush and him can get on that same page too. But yeah, Bush Hamdan, what he needs to do, Taylen Green, and I'm with him too. Bush, if Bush doesn't need to fix his mechanics and his, the way he throws the football, I think that's a lot of overrated garbage, in my opinion. When I think that's a lot of dudes sitting on their couch who don't know how to throw a football themselves, and they like to tweet and talk that his throwing motion is all jacked up and he's never going to be anything unless he looks prettier throwing the ball. Dirk kind of echoed that too. It's not that, I think that can be overrated at times. I like how Dirk tightened it up, but yeah, I mean, his motion is his motion. I don't know if we're going to see an entirely different type of motion coming out.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Ballgame, and I don't need to see that. I thought it was squirrely enough in the beginning when we first saw him that it needed to be tightened up, but after that, it's perfectly fine. Whether it's the motion itself or what other kind of mechanic that I wouldn't begin to know how to do, because Bush Hamdan is the pro here. I also need to see better accuracy coming out of Taylen Green. And overall, last year he was 61%. That's okay. In college football today, you need to push 65, and you need to actually push 70%. And his last 5 games, 50%, 60%, 60%, 44%, and 59%. So over the last month of the season, he was not completing at a high percentage. He was very clean in terms of no interceptions. He had a couple in that Fresno State game, against Fresno State. but that the accuracy thing really kind of bothered me. He had too many 50% games last year, and I need to see some more consistency with the accuracy, getting that ball into tight windows, maybe taking advantage of the tight ends in the middle of the field, and not so much looking for an Eric McAllister to save your ass all the time.
You know, Boise State spring football camp countdown. This is day one of an 8-part series, Prater, getting you ready for Boise State spring football, talking Bush Hamdan, your new offensive coordinator, and what his priority list for Taylen Green will be during spring football. What do you think it's going to be, just quickly? What's Bush's priority going to be for Taylen using his feet? Is Bush going to have I'm thinking of Bush Hamdan offenses, and I didn't ever see a lot of read options, but I've never really seen Bush with a quarterback like Taylen Green. It's simple. It's the one read, and Taylen can keep it, and he's great at it. I wonder what the philosophical ideas will be for this team this year as far as the read option and Taylen Green on foot. That's something Bush is going to have to figure out as well.
Yeah,
how he wants to use him.
I cannot wait to see that. And we all know that he's a beautiful runner.
You have to use it. You have to implement the running game with this kid, Prater. You have to let him go.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, but at what point do you want to see the balance becoming more pass? And maybe as he gets older too, and you try to protect him a little bit.
Yeah.
Last year he had a double-digit run, yardage-wise, in every single game he played.
That's the first down.
Every single game he played, he had at least a 10-yard run.
There were a couple on two, Prater, where it'd be like 3rd and 11, and he'd pick it up, and it felt like the kid took 3 steps, and he had it picked up.
Exactly.
It's like, what the hell? Look at these strides,
14 passing touchdowns last year, 10 rushing touchdowns. I'd probably like to see that gap a little bit more. I'd probably like to see 20 passing and maybe 10 rushing. I don't want to take away from his rushing.
Yeah.
I like what he's doing, especially going into this year. Maybe if he becomes a junior or a senior, we start to taper off on that, but take advantage of his rushing and just make him a more dangerous passer.
I think a lot of his rushing touchdowns too will be inside the 5 or the 10-yard line, which is fine. Those are tough to stop.
Yeah.
And but you're right. You'd like to see a higher ratio there. 20 plus TDs through the air, 8+ touchdowns on foot. And, Boise State in this offense and Bush Hamdan, yeah, I know he took a pay cut to come here, but he's going to say, hell yeah, I made a beautiful decision getting to work with this kid in this offense, in this conference, and really see how far we can go. This is a big year for Boise State. I know we're just focusing on spring right now, but there's a lot ahead for this team this season as far as getting to those big games that this town's been used to. It's been 10 years essentially since they've been to a New Year's 6 level bowl game. And with this team and this roster, hey, you're going to have to keep listening to us because we'll preview all this stuff for you for the spring.
Yeah,
the spring season.
Some of the storylines we're going to be working on over the next 8 days. Who's going to be the left tackle? What about the 8 true freshmen, the early enrollees that came in? How about ranking the new assistants and the work they got to do? The wide receiver core, replacing that defense. How about QB2? QB2 is going to be a big one. How about the ongoing development of Austin Bolt? Who's going to, in terms of injuries and surgeries, rebuilding that secondary, building Genti and Helani, building that game plan and how that's going to work out. These are all storylines that we're certainly going to follow over the next 8 days.
Yep, good stuff. Bush Hamdan, what do you think his priorities will be with Taylen Green during spring football practice? And good stuff right there, kicking off this new series we're doing on Prater and the Ball Game. All right, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Daytona 500 champion. He wins the Great American Race, and he's hungry, and he's got his closest with him, and they go to a Waffle House, and they loved it, and it exploded, and everybody in the Waffle House family, and I am a member of this, understands completely as to why you go to a Waffle House. Trevor Lawrence won the big playoff game. He took, I think, his fiance or his wife. He took them to the Waffle House. Amazing, man.
Why? I need somebody to convince me. Why is the Waffle House is that the only place to go? Is that the only place that stays open late in the South? What's all this Waffle House hype crap?
Now, there are no Waffle Houses in Idaho, and that maybe is a tragedy. I don't know, but I'm sure a lot of you guys listening have been to a Waffle House. Maybe some of you get it. Maybe some of you don't. 208-424-9300. Prater says he's been to one. but he doesn't remember anything about it. That's a whole nother segment. But why the Waffle House? Help me help Prater understand its power. 208-424-9300. Give us a call, Prater, because we're going to the Waffle House when we come back on Prater in the